The job of a software engineer is a lucrative dream for many. The prospect of earning several $1,000s a month for just sitting around a computer, taking boring old meetings, writing up code, and sitting around with your coworkers trying to figure out why the fuck that one thing isn't working like it should be. Minimal physical labor besides moving from your chair to the restroom while getting all those nice, unhealthy company snacks and other benefits is truly a dream to behold. So the question is, how does one get a software engineering job? Okay, let's start with a brief history lesson on software engineering. Software engineering came into creation in around the 1960s, when computers were starting to just become more commercialized. People were like, oh, we gotta do more with these things than just use them as glorified calculators. As a result, women would write code so computers would do tasks beyond adding 1 plus 1. This would be the framework for the software engineering career we know it today. Now fast forward to the modern day, and we have thousands of men, because men like to take what's cool from women and make it theirs, clamoring to get into their respective university's software engineering program. Unfortunately, that also means we have thousands of men failing to get laid in that department. Now, you may think to become a software engineer, you must simply go to college for computer science and get a bachelor's degree for it. And you would be mostly correct except for a few caveats that would allow you to skip just about everything. But don't worry too much about that. If you really wanted to jumpstart your career early, you could have taken computer science courses in your high school. AP Computer Science is a class people often take to really start their software engineering career. You may think that it's helpful, but all it really proves is how much of a nerd and tryhard you are, even if you learn next to nothing. Now, if you're like most normal people, you would probably learn how to code in your college courses. The first thing you'd want to get familiar with is a coding language. Some starter languages include C++ or Java. You may wonder, what language is the best language to learn? And the answer is none of them, or Python, because languages are so different for various reasons that are too many for me to care or talk about. And whatever company or job you get will just simply tell you to use the language that they're using. Besides, most likely, there's no real reason why a company uses the language that they do, except for the fact that the smart engineer in the past used it. And now, they can't use a new or better one without everything falling apart. Once you figure out how to code in a few languages, you'll really be asking yourself how else to progress in your software engineering career, besides making your own website and creating a few not-so-meaningful projects. If you ask your college will tell you to get some real-life experience with an internship. Now, an internship is usually optional for your degree, so I would normally tell you not to worry about it, but 99% of your fellow software engineers will have an internship prior to graduating, so you'll definitely look stupid if you don't have one. Don't worry, it's not too difficult to get an internship. You'll just have to go through the standard software engineer's application process with only like 7 or so interviews, while you compete with thousands of other applicants because, like you, none of your fellow aspiring software engineers want to be seen as stupid. But once you get that internship, you'll really be able to apply everything you've learned by having some guy who's worked there for 5 or so years teach you everything you need to know, because nothing from your courses actually prepared you for how a company does anything. Since they had to teach you everything you needed to know to fulfill your role, the company from your internship won't be offering you a return letter. But that's okay. With your degree, finding a job won't be that hard, right? So, right before you graduate, you really begin applying to jobs while still juggling your remaining courses. The first thing you have to ask is, what company should I be applying for? And if you're smart, you should really apply to FAANG companies, which are Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. But actually, Facebook is now called Meta, Netflix isn't that cool to work at anymore, and Google is now Alphabet. So really, it should be called the MAAA companies. Anyone who gets into these companies will simply have to sell their souls for a few years and will return a wealthy husk once they are let go. While there are other companies that will gladly suck your soul for less, according to the CS world, you really don't have much value in this world if you don't end up in one of those companies. The next thing you have to consider is how to prepare for those 14 or so interviews that each of these jobs will require you to take. And I'll introduce you to this glorious thing called LeetCode. LeetCode is essentially the SAT for all computer science jobs. Companies will ask you to solve a few coding questions throughout their interviews that will have no correlation to what will be required for the job in a specified time limit. Now you may think this is foolish or the problems are impossible, but fret not, that one Indian kid applying to the same job as you has surely gotten a perfect score in less than 20 minutes. As a result, the company that you are applying for will no longer be hiring you. Okay, let's imagine for a moment that somehow after thousands of applications and nearly as many interviews, you've managed to find yourself a job at some mid-level company that treats their workers like shiny trash. You tell yourself it's a nice place and your coworkers are great, even though most of your team is located in India, doing all of the work with none of the explanation. Truly, this was what software engineering was all about. But you're glad that you got to where you were, even after all those years of college without having a social life or a girlfriend. That is, until you realized your coworker was just some business major who did a single boot camp and now has the same job as you. He tells you of all of his amazing college experiences and you can only dream of them. Still, there isn't much to worry about after all. Your company will surely lay you off in a few months and you can figure it out then. So maybe this time you'll go into healthcare or business or become an influencer. Wait, so when does this